the Routledge sisters, who have done a lot of work involving residents of different institutions, psychiatric institutions, prisons. Their work kind of plays on the idea of outsider art. So even though they've been shown in exhibitions like Documenta and in a very kind of high-profile contemporary art museums, their work looks kind of a bit funky and homemade, and they include a lot of crafts and textiles and ceramics and media, which are often presented on the side of craft rather than fine art. Alexandra Meir, who, together with John Kelsey, created a whole book dealing with collating artists' appropriations of corporate culture. And the book is available online, and the whole thing can be downloaded. And a number of the relational works that I'm looking at use the internet for its kind of viral capacities. Such as Kat Mather, who's done a series of anti-sweatshop, web and knitting activist projects, including the Nike blanket petition, in which hundreds of women from around the world added knitted squares to compose a giant Nike swoosh, which they then sent to company headquarters to comment and intervene on their use of piece workers and sweatshop workers. Or the feminist collective Sub Rosa, which organizes events about the implications of digital and biological technologies for race and gender. They embrace a multivocal approach and see themselves more as a network than a group, encouraging other people to start their own Sub Rosa cells to create solidarity, connection, confusion, and multiplicity. They, like Kat Mather, have dealt with the global links between consumers and producers. So our work, Can You See Us Now, artist gallery viewers to cut the tags off their clothes and pin them to a world map of the country in which that garment was made. Lucy Orta's bizarre, sort of apocalyptic outfits, which she then parades through the streets as a way of kind of signaling a kind of, apocalyptic SOS. She's also made banquets from foods that are going to be discarded. There's a kind of a recruitment drive aspect to a number of these works. So riffing off the Lesbian Avengers posters in the 90s, Lesbian Avengers, We Recruit, your worst nightmare about the seductive, dangerous lesbians that get your daughter. Paige Gradland, who's an artist from Toronto, has this great series of celebrity lesbian fists, which are at once a kind of sign of solidarity and also a dildo. And they're cast from the hands of lesbian writers and artists that she admires, such as Catherine Opie and Eileen Myers. And it's really that sort of, putting the eroticism back into activism. Alison Smith called people to represent themselves at her public artwork, The Muster, a sort of pageantry. The artist collective Third Leg, two of which are from the Maritimes, have staged coming out parties in small towns in the Atlantic region. This project is called Gayside, and it was inspired by an event that happened in a town called Gayside in Newfoundland. Well, you can see the story here. So the town got very panicked about its name. The locals voted to change the name, and one of the members of the collective shared the story, and so as a kind of act of reclamation, they held this very sort of queer-friendly We Recruit party. Doesn't look like very very many people came, but I guess, it's fairly remote. Their work ties in, and actually one of the members of the group, Ginger Brooks Takahashi, is in a queer feminist collective called LTTR, Lesbians to the Rescue, Listen, Translate, Record. They change their name whenever they feel like it. But they have said of their work, we don't have time to protest the status quo. Instead, we create micro-utopias to perform what we want. I think this is very important. The work of your fellow Vancouverite, Afea Talberger, I didn't actually see this project, so I'm not going to be presumptuous enough to comment on it, but I would love to hear more about it from those of you that did, but where she took over an area of the downtown east side, lit it as a film set, and staged various performances from the nearly invisible to the theatrical, recreations of historical moments that had taken place in this area. So perhaps we can talk about that. And the work of the Indian artist Shena Anand, I don't know if any of you saw an exhibition at the power plant called We Can't Get It Together, which presented this project of Shena Anand called Kirkiyan, where she, using extremely basic technology, as she put it, cheap open-circuit television systems, typically used for surveillance, 6 or 5 TV sets, an RF modulator, microphone, audio mixer, and meters of coax cable. She set up links between residents of the Kirkiyan neighborhood, people who typically wouldn't get to speak to each other or even see each other, and a number of whom were women who had very little access to a public life. And so through these very simple devices, she staged community conversations. There's no editing, so the participants are, interacting with each other in a fairly unmediated way. She says the filmmaking is automatic, made possible through eye-level communication, real-time feedback, and the absence of cameraman and editor. So she generated 7 episodes through 7 sets of installations in different neighborhoods in and around Kirky Extension, which is in New Delhi, over the course of 3 weeks. A number of the conversations are really quite joyful. There's run, this one, or is it? Oh, this one, Women at Home, where a number of women exchange views on everything from, they talk about their coming to Delhi, their background. They show their dowry beads, which in this case, none of them have gold in them. There's a lot of laughter about the kind of modest resources. In the Brides of Kirky village, they talk about domestic violence, alcoholism. There's a heated discussion about why women can be so mean to one another. And one of the women posits that, it's so hard to enter a new family that when you get a daughter-in-law, you're going to put her through what you went through. So these are not, touchy-feely conversations. It's some tough issues confronted. And in one of the last episodes, Anand actually stages, she introduces a kind of theatrical element. She was very disappointed by the sort of prejudicial comments of one of the men in one of the episodes and the views he expressed on members of lower caste. So she set up a situation where he was challenged about his opinion. So you probably know the Toronto artist Diane. I would say her work is more in like kind of whimsical take on relational aesthetics. This is a description of her touching 100 people work. And I think in the work of Emily Jessier we have a sort of combination of somewhat whimsical and playful, but also extremely sort of, politically powerful. So for this project, where we come from, Emily Jessier, who's from Palestine but has a US passport, she interviewed Palestinians who weren't able to go back and asked if I could do anything for you anywhere in Palestine, what would it be? And then went back to Israel and the occupied territories and fulfilled a number of her interlocutors' requests, which included, and then took photographs of the events and presented them alongside their instructions. So one person asked her to water a tree in a village that had been demolished in 1948. Another asked her to light a candle in Haifa, the town from which her family is from, but which she's unable to go back to, or to visit an abandoned family home in Bethlehem, or lighter things, enjoy a special dish at a fondly remembered Tel Aviv restaurant, visit a relative's grave in Jerusalem. Some of the requests are quite practical, visit a loved one, or pay a gas bill. I also really love this project by Emily Jessier, and it's in a show at the New Museum right now. If any of you have seen this exhibition called The Last Newspaper. So for Sexy School Night, she has at the Village Boys personal section with 60 ads ostensibly written by Palestinians who were looking for Israeli mates to settle down with. The ad slyly suggests a way around an irreconcilable issue in the Middle East peace process, which is, by marrying an Israeli, Palestinians can gain citizenship and thus sidestep calls for the right of return. So one asks, and they're very funny, one asks, do you love milk and honey? I'm ready to start a big family in Israel, still have house keys. Another, you stole the land, may as well take the women. Let a Palestinian ready to be colonized by your army. And this is such a clever project because for a very small amount of money, she managed to get headline news coverage in Israel. What's going on? Is this some kind of terrorist plot? Are they trying to steal our men and assassinate? No, I'm very fond of these relational projects, which, with such sort of meager means but a lot of wit, really get somewhere. Palestinian male working in a difficult occupation and looking for a Jewish beauty. Only you can help me find my way home. And I'll just end with two works in which we've looked at a lot of pieces which are very much about body, intimacy, touch, tangibility, and the last two projects I want to look at are predominantly dealing with sound, well, performance, but specifically sound. So there's a young British artist called Hew Locke whose work has started to look really interesting. So for this work, we've got jukebox. We see two musicians operating a 2-meter-high accordion, and they're playing the song I'm Going to Be an Engineer from 1971 by Peggy Seeger, which was a feminist song with a kind of pseudo-upbeatness, satirizes the opportunities for women in the workforce. Here, with an accordion, it's resurrected as a haltingly melancholic lament, animated by the strangely human lung of an oversized and outmoded musical instrument. And a few years before that, she made a piece which it's a little bit like Emily Jessier's inclination in that it was very modest means. She really got somewhere. So for this work, Did You Kiss the Foot That Kicked You? She paid, I believe, over 100 buskers throughout London